watch new Survivor. We're stuck in a bad dream. So we're watching an old season with a silly pirate theme. Of course there's a new theme song, but it's as half-assed as our plans. And then something, mumbo something, a word that rhymes with plans. John will make some dumb jokes. Andy likes to yell and curse. Something about some backup host. How could hell be any worse? We'll spend the whole time wishing that our lives were back on track. But until then, it's Pirate Survivor. We can all be glad for that. It's the Purple Rock Whatever Podcast, our mateys.
Hello, and welcome to the Purple Rock Survivor Podcast. We're here to talk about the 12th episode of Pearl Islands, and what an eventful episode this was. Just so much to talk about. Buckle in. We're going to be here a while. Matt, this was an episode where the editors probably should have tricked us, right?
Yeah, but they didn't. Nope.
Yeah. You know, I know people like to get angry about the editors doing that, but and obviously it's harder to fool us once we know the outcome of an episode. But I feel like they really told us this is what's going to happen, and then we watched it happen, and there we go. Good night. Good podcast. Oh, Emma's also here. We have a few other things to discuss because it's not always outcome based. But how about we start with a discussion that we had last week in the spoiler section? So most of you already heard this. Great podcasting. But was it a mistake for Sandra and Christa to not vote out Burton last week? Last week we discussed it in the context of it happening. Burton, should it have been, should not have been. Now that we've seen how it results in Christa being voted out, did this change your opinion at all, Emma?
I mean, I don't know that, if T also had the plan of voting Christa off this round, I don't know what's really going to help her there. I guess, butterfly effect, that makes the reward challenge totally different, and maybe somehow that changes everything. But,
Yeah, Burton never really got to participate in that challenge, so
Right.
It's hard to...
Yeah. He looked frustrated.
Yeah, so I don't know if his absence could have turned, other than, butterfly effect in that, a different set of hands
Right.
just for a different coin.
And you're
Matt,
not going to have the issue of Dara not being willing to vote for Burton because she already did.
Yeah, but, it sounded like Dara's plan was to vote for Christa, so kind of like she stuck to the plan, no matter what happened there. Matt, you were the one that you were a little stronger that was a mistake. Do you want to now be like, see, like, what do you got?
Yeah, so I do want to be now CC, because you know who else thought it was a mistake right when this episode began? Sandra and Christa. They were like, oh, damn, what the hell did we do? That was a mistake. Which tells me, that I may have been onto something there. I actually didn't remember that conversation when I brought it up last week. But yeah, the episode begins, and Sandra and Christa are basically talking about the fact they didn't think this situation through fully, probably because John came up to them right before tribal council, and they had to make a decision very quickly. And, I think after they had thought it through a bit more, they realized this puts us in a tough spot. Now, you're right. They may have been in a tough spot anyway, which was never I never contended otherwise. It's just that this was a very foreseeable tough spot, whereas the other one I think might have been more preventable because, T may have said that her next target was Christa, but we don't really know, and that can change, whereas trying to break up a pretty strong 3 is a lot harder.
I think maybe where it might have been a mistake is that they left the more dangerous players in the game.
Yeah.
The former Morgans haven't really demonstrated
a lot of fortitude.
or a lot of acuity in this game named Survivor. So maybe keeping one of them around while still a tough position, still their stated position, which was true. One instance where Fairplay wasn't lying, that they were going to come after Christa, but it's just like there might be somewhere to play. It might be easier to get them to go after Lil if Burton's not there, or don't you want to vote out Fairplay? Wouldn't that feel good? Whereas they did leave the 3 tight. people there. Problem, flip side though is it's like, Dara, you wanted to vote out Burton before, you still can now.
Well, except that she couldn't, because who else was going to come with her? That would only make it 3-3.
Right. Yeah. But that doesn't ever seem like it came up. It's possible. Let's give Dara some credit that she can provide 6x2. But it never seemed like she was all like, I don't want to be involved in a tie. It just seemed like she just wasn't interested in working with them.
Look, she's a mortician. She definitely knows the number 6. 6 feet under. That's one she's very familiar with.
I don't know if she's involved with that part. Maybe she's just
not
like
James.
Yeah, it's more of the grave digger than the mortician. They ship him off to somebody else. Learn how the process works, Matt.
Oh God,
that was very Canadian there, Andy.
The process? Yeah.
Yes.
Process.
Jeez, man. Come on, guy.
Process.
I say both, but it depends.
That's crazy.
Like, I don't say trust the process. That's definitely trust the process.
It's like it's the Caribbean
surprised you
Sea,
say it
but
at all,
it's Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's still possible, and this is where I ended up last week, in that it might not have been a mistake to do that last week. The mistakes come this week in that they don't really follow up. So it's like, you do this, but then what's next? And I think the what's next is what's to focus here, because I don't feel like Sandra and Christa played this well at all. I mean, their options were limited, but I didn't like any of their approaches to the people that they needed to get on their sides.
No, I have to agree. Their conversation with Burton was basically just convincing Burton, God, I got to get rid of Christa. For like an entire day they were together, and like you could just, the way they were just approaching him was like, well, how do you not know that? He's like, I told you I don't know it. And they're like, well, come on, this is what was said. He's like, I'm telling you, I don't know this. And I agree, it's hard to believe he never had that conversation with John, but also like, I don't think just repeating it is a way to win him over to your point of view.
Yeah. And like, it seemed like everybody they approached with was just like more anger. Just throw more anger at the problem. So they tell Burton that this is the way it's going to be. He's kind of like, huh? And then they just be more angry at him. And it's like, that's, a special tool. With Dara, a person whom they blindsided, but a day before, they're all like, you want to do this, right? Like, it didn't seem like there was like a lot of like, recognition over the feelings and the position that they put them in. There didn't seem to be an apology from what we saw. What do you think, Emma?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of think most people didn't play well this episode. I think it was just...
Right, but one person lost, so we'll focus on them first.
Yes, just kind of a bad round all around. But yeah, I mean... It was funny because, and I had told you guys this, but my husband, like, the day before we watched, was like, oh, we got Survivor, what do you think is gonna happen? And he's like, oh, one of the guys is going home. It's like, why? He's like, because there's 4 women. And I'm like, they didn't vote together last time. Like, what? And just like, but then also when we were watching the, like, started and the previously happened, he's like, wait, Tijuana went home? He also was pretty sure, I don't know if this is a wishful thinking since, his crush on Christa has been well documented, but he was like pretty convinced it was Lil. And I was like, what part of the show made you think that was happening?
Yeah.
Well, Lil.
Was it the part where they had 4 people say that they were going to vote for Christa? Or
maybe it was the part where Lil just out of nowhere goes, I guess I'm going home tonight. And it's like...
Yeah, I mean, and good for, like, why is
probably a desire?
But yes, we'll get to the little discussion. But yeah, just I didn't like how Sandra, and frankly, how Sandra and Christa approached this week, how to win this. We realize now started with last week, and that shouldn't they have been involved with the conversation with Burton? Why? Why are they just trusting that Fairplay did? No, as you say, Matt, maybe there just wasn't time. But I gotta say, if I'm flipping up my plan and coming up with a final 4 deal to save somebody, I kind of want all 4 people involved in that conversation.
Right, because the thing is, like, what they wanted was basically credit for saving him, and he never realized that his butt was on the line.
Yeah,
which is a
maybe
real
that's news to me.
problem with trying to extract credit there, you know? And the other thing is, like, they just seem to approach every conversation this week as if they were coming from a position of power, which they weren't.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah, because let's be real, even if he had known his butt was on the line, Johnny Fairplay saved him.
Yep.
Right.
100%. In fact, as he's telling this, it would have been funny. It's like, what I'm hearing from you guys is I owe John a big thank you.
Right. So
I don't understand why you guys did what you did, but hey, thanks.
Thanks.
Sounds like you and John have a deal to live up to. I can keep my options open.
Yeah. So we did do a very good job of keeping those options open this week, did he?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, established. Sandra,
He somehow closed every option?
Wow. What's up with Burton? Like, for a while since he came back, he seemed like a very savvy player. And this week it seemed like he did not understand the game of Survivor.
No, it was incredible because, like you said, he had actually been playing, I think, pretty well since he came back. And all of a sudden, he's just like, yeah, Lil, that final two deal I promised you, I never actually promised you that. To the point where Lil's like, oh, I think I'm going home tonight. And he's like, maybe. Which is like, dude, what the hell?
Why?
And then, you know, the way he handled that, like, Sandra and Christa conversation wasn't great on him either. I think the only person that, like, he actually had, like, a decent interaction with was probably Dara, which we didn't see, but we just know that Dara is suddenly not willing to vote for Burton. So.
Which, again, is probably also still more because of John.
Well, yeah.
Based on what we saw, who knows? But,
Right. But,
yeah, like, again, my husband, who, again, has not watched the show, when this conversation with Burton is happening, is like, why wouldn't you just say yes? Or, sorry, with Burton and Lil, we're talking, like, why wouldn't you just say yes? And I'm like, can't wait to make you watch Philippines.
It's the easiest thing in the world, and a thing that he seemingly knew when he formed the bond with her. Yeah. And now he's, like, sitting there sticking with, like, you know, like, I never said final two. Like, maybe you did not actually utter the exact phrase final two, but you said you and I are going to work together to the end. We'll have each other's backs. Just run with it, man. That's all you need to do.
I mean, even if you need to couch it slightly, just say it's me, you, and John. We're in this against everyone else. We're the final three, all three of us.
Yeah, and again, maybe that's not enough, but, like, he gave her nothing.
That's the thing. He just gave her nothing.
It's just bad.
Bizarre.
It's bad.
And yeah, like the Sandra and Christa, like, I can understand, like, they were coming off aggressive and angry. They were angry at him for the way that they voted.
Yes.
But
they realized they fucked up, or at least they realized. Cool. Yeah, they at least realized they dug themselves a hole that they were now incapable of digging out of because the two people they needed to talk to were on the reward with John.
Yeah, and yeah, it was bafflingly bad. And the only thing, like, I can think of is now he's getting closer to the end. He sees his path, and he doesn't want to get dinged for lying unnecessarily. Yeah. And
that seemed to be his problem with Christa too. Like, he's just very concerned about, like, the jury. But I'm like, aren't you going to be up against Johnny Fairplay? Like, in his mind, that's the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I guess also, like, he definitely is counting his chickens. Like, he thinks he can't lose before the end because look at everyone around him. Like, he lost this week because Dara's apparently a really good shot, which good for her. But, like, he's been just owning a bunch of these challenges. So
yeah, and I mean, as previously discussed, it's not like many people are covering themselves in strategic glory either. But it was just baffling. And another thing I find like Burton isn't doing well is he's not throwing it back at people that they voted him out. You know, like when everybody's like talking about trust issues, he should be, nobody knows more than I how little people's word means. Most of these people blindsided me, but not like you still see like Rupert giving him the stink eye from the jury, and you see Sanders like,
hey, Rupert never voted.
That's right.
That's right.
Maybe Rupert finally realizes that. Now, obviously, like he obviously dug his own grave in that scenario, and there, you know, part of it was as a result of his own chicanery and all of that. But like he has that perspective, and he never said like when they're grilling him, and it's like, yeah, is that how you felt when you voted me out? Like. The very idea that, like, how dare you ever think to vote us out? It's like, you've done it to him already. and it doesn't seem to come up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Burton was like baffling. I can't say it. Weirdly bad this episode. Krista and Sandra not very good either. Is it possible? And I hate to say it, but at this exact moment in the game, is Johnny Fairplay playing the best game of Survivor? Nobody else wants to say it either.
No, I think at this point in the show, yeah, I think probably. I mean, you know, he'd be in trouble if this was something like wait, no, I don't think that's how it works. If it was anything where, you know, they're seeing what's happening beyond the scenes, obviously he'd be in trouble. But yeah, I mean, in terms of having actual play and weirdly enough, building relationships, like I think he's done a solid job. The problem is he's playing that good right now, but he wasn't earlier in the earlier part of the merge, which means, you know, I don't know who he could face, you know, and this is, you know, all speculative, who he could face on the jury, or sorry, who he could face, like who's left, and the 3 people who are already on the jury would vote for him.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so it would be a very like Dom and Wendell like sort of thing where you're seeing like the first half of the jury vote for one person and the second half of the jury vote for another, if something were to happen there.
Yeah, maybe, but like there are people left in the game that I don't think the first half of the jury is gonna like either. You know, I think he is playing the best game right now. He has the most relationships out there. Like he has worked with or has seemed to have a bond with everyone left in the game. I think Krista is basically like the one person who like was, you know, like Sandra and him fight the most, but they've also worked together a bunch. Whereas like he and Krista just seem to like not like each other.
Yeah. But otherwise, yeah, we saw it with Dara and Lil at the at the reward. We've seen it
obviously
with
Burton
Lil before, and obviously Burton. And yeah, and this isn't just theoretical. Like we've seen him work with other people. Last week, we saw Tijuana and Dara try to work with him as well.
Yeah.
You know, he was the one that was able to engineer Burton's first vote out, and then when Burton comes back, he's his buddy. It's. I hate giving the guy credit, and I think, you know, Emma was getting at that. It could be the missing ingredient. Like Russell was playing really well, but what does it matter if you can't win in front of a jury, right? Is what he's doing.
I guess that's the thing. Like we don't know what his jury prospects look like right now.
Yeah.
Especially back then, you know, if this is like, I don't think he's as bad as Russell. So, you know, in terms of as a person. So I think if this is like, you know, if this is season 19, like he can probably take it. But, you know, season 7 is a different time.
So didn't
like,
just
Brian
win a couple seasons before this?
Sorry, what?
Didn't Brian Heidick?
Yeah, and I was about to say, you know who Brian was facing?
Yeah. Right, fair.
And he still lost 3 jury votes against Clay. So.
I haven't seen it. I just know.
Okay,
that
yeah.
They're terrible people.
Brian beat one of
Clay's
the worst
racist.
people in the history of Survivor, like human being type people in the history of Survivor, and it was close.
It was 4-3.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah. I forgot that you are blessed and haven't seen Thailand.
Only season I never saw.
Yeah, there's just truly no point, I think, in going back. That derailed us a bit, but
sorry.
But yeah, I would say I understand your instinct in bringing up Brian Heidick, but based on who he was facing, that does not, in fact, apply.
Yeah. But yeah, and maybe that's all it is like, yeah, Fairplay is good, playing a good mid-game tactical thing, part of the game, but it doesn't mean anything if people won't vote for you at the end. Just the one thing is like, do people hate him as much as viewers hate him? And they seem to not in the game, but well, you know, Rupert clearly does.
I think the Morgans did. Like Ryan, I don't think he's voting for him.
And that's where you get it. Like, is it still that way with Tijuana?
Right.
And I
like,
think it could be because I
if
think
he's
one of the
sitting
reasons why
next to
Tijuana
Dara,
wanted to
that's
work with him
3
was
votes.
to stay in the jury, like to go against him in the jury. Like I do think one of the factors why nobody's coming after him is because they all wouldn't mind going against him, but in both challenges and the jury.
Right. These are small juries. These are juries of 7. Like you can, you just have to lose 4 people. Like, and I think he's, depending on, who he's, but like say he's facing Dara, which is what he proposes, right? Mm-hmm. That's those 3 votes already gone. He just needs to lose 1 vote, and he probably doesn't have Krista.
Yeah. Or Rupert.
And he's lost. No,
right, you say, you already counted
3 people who are on the jury.
Yeah, sorry.
And he just needs 1 more, and that 1 was probably Krista because he just betrayed her. And so he's already, in terms of that, if he faces Dara, which is his plan, he's already drawing dead.
Right. I mean, the problem is that he's made enough promises to the people remaining in the game that they might hold those promises against him when he votes them out. If he gets to the end, it doesn't.
Which is what Burton's afraid of doing, but the problem is he's leaning way too far the other direction.
Right.
But this could be instructive in that what we're viewing now is like, why are these bunch of idiots not doing the things that you should be doing? Is because back then you could be punished more significantly for, I mean, look, we see Lil, swearing up and down and getting revenge on Savage for a thing that possibly he did, and saying that she was going to go home. And yeah, you see this right now. You promised me final 2. It's like already happening with Lil. Yeah. So, where it might seem like Fairplay is playing really well because he has different working relationships, there's different like options at his hand. Maybe we're at the point of Survivor where you can't have that many options. You will be penalized for it. And, look at the very next season and the result. All Stars.
I got that part.
No, yeah, there was like looks. All right. Emma's rides here, and
was that outside hers?
I picked one. I didn't know where the honk came from.
I don't think it was mine, but
yeah. I don't know. It might have been. They're keeping sirens. I keep trying to mute when it comes, but it's Los Angeles. What do you want?
All right, time for the weekly discussion that everybody's been waiting for. Did Lil suck this week? Matt, you go first.
Can I go first?
Podcasting gold. Emma.
Yeah, no, I'm going to say yes.
She sucked.
Yeah, I'm going to say yes.
Emma, why did she suck?
I have actual things to say, so since Matt is failing, I'm going to go first and take my time instead. Lil sucked, and here's why. First of all, what the hell did she get so mad at Johnny Fairplay in the reward for? I couldn't even tell what he said. Maybe he did say something bad, but he seemed pretty confused too, and so did Dara, which makes me believe that she's probably overreacting. She also sucked in a different way in leaning, in supporting the patriarchy. Why was she so fucking charmed? Why was she so charmed by Johnny Fairplay taking over and ordering? Ooh, I love a man who orders for me. And I'm like, look, I can get it like in a like very specific context, maybe, but I don't trust any man to order food for me, dear God. But I am obviously a special case. But she was like too into it. It made me uncomfortable. It's still Johnny Fairplay at the end of the day. Lil, you are a married woman. What are you doing?
Yeah, like in a limited circumstance, and it wouldn't have to be man, for her, but that's what she's into or whatever. But like, this person really knows about this, meal, a restaurant I'm at. That'd be cool. But no, yeah.
John
as soon
can
as
order
that happened,
Indian
I was
cuisine
like,
for you guys.
What's that?
Like if John takes you guys out to an Indian restaurant, he can order for you guys.
No, I'm fine in that regard. John
I'm just
knows
saying,
like 3 menu items and likes to brag about it. I'm okay. I'm good.
You just know he's not going to listen to this.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's a real shame, but
he's like,
you should all go into his Twitter and mention this part of the conversation, please. Just no context. Just throw
Don't
it.
snitch tag.
But yeah, as soon as
context.
I saw that scene, it's like, well, I know my answer for this week, and like, it's just gross. And also, what's honestly maybe a little sad about it is when you find out what he's ordering. oh, he's so knowledgeable about the world of bruschetta. Like, it blew her mind, the simple, like, Outback Steakhouse menu that they had. And it was like, I almost felt a little bad for her then.
That's the thing. Like,
I
yeah, I really hesitated on this one because I felt kind of bad for her there. I just felt bad for her. I was like, oh, Lil, oh no, I'm sorry.
Johnny the Fairplay's like, I'll take control. I know. Filet mignon. It's like, ooh, fancy. Like, my kids would know what that is because we went on a cruise ship. Like, this wasn't like, like showing off his, elite knowledge of the local cuisine or anything. Bruschetta and steak. And good for him for realizing, no, we don't want to order seafood. You can also skip the white rice. But yeah,
they have enough seafood.
Honestly, like, that part was that was a turn off and enough to get her the no this week. I will say, like, later in the episode, when she's starting to seeming like she was building a bit of a backbone in response to her conversation with Burton. Frankly, just being able to wear clothes that wasn't her scouting uniform, I think gave her a little bit of pep in her step. But no, that whole I love when a man takes over bullshit. Did Dara really agree, or was Dara just doing that thing where you humor somebody?
Sure.
Let's give her some credit. She was just humoring somebody, right?
Right. I mean, I
She's
guess,
from the
like,
South.
did Dara really agree? Was Dara just silent? You never really know. It's Dara, so.
All right. Speaking of another, not quite as silent, but not so much farther. This is the episode Christa went home. Christa has fans. Some, watch with some of us. Some just out there in comments. And I thought that we haven't really discussed it much this season, so this is a good time to discuss Christa as a player and a character. What value did she add to this season, Emma?
Apparently eye candy. Enough that as we were talking in the beginning, before I was addressed as existing, that this was a pretty predictable episode and stuff. But as I said, who thought Lil was going home? Krista's biggest fan. Yeah, I mean, I think she was fine. Like, she wasn't, it's not like she's a star player, but I don't think she's a complete dud either. I think you get these a lot. It's just these middle of the road casting people who make it about halfway through the jury and they don't get brought back, and they maybe were in the power at one point and then they're not.
What about you, Matt?
I don't know. I remembered Christa being more of a player on this season than she actually was. And then she just wasn't present a lot of the time. Her decisions get typically siphoned off to Sandra or Rupert. There's very few that are attributed to her. And then when we see people talking about her, they're usually irritated at her in ways that are never like really captured by the camera. So there just seems to be a lot about her that wasn't captured, but in a way that didn't make me want to know more, in a way that just made me kind of like, okay, so she was there and she irritated some people, fine.
Yeah, so I think in our memory, she's got 2 moments, and as time passes, that's a lot, right? So she outlasts a lot of the guys holding the weight. That's probably the biggest one. And then that she was the fault person for Sandra's fish chicanery, which honestly, I think a lot of in our memory translated to Christa going home, which it did not. So yeah, and then one of the reasons I brought it up is that this episode she finally gets her spotlight because it's her time to go home, and it seemed like she was just learning what Survivor was for the very first time. In her own words, she was all like, I guess I have to lie sometimes, and I'm just now realizing. And it was
I guess it's not about making friends, like, is a thing, she said.
Yes, it's season 7 of, like, we're now,
and
5,
deep into
10
the
years
season.
into reality TV show boom. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and it's just like, I saw that, and then, we see again, somebody mentioned that people don't like her. Like, we thought it was, like, really, in poor taste and out of nowhere when Rhino was going off on her, which could still be true, but I think people didn't like Christa, and I think there must have been reasons besides, her hanging out with Rupert. And when you combine that with the fact that, she seemed to just be not, out there by her own admission about what Survivor is. Like, I think she just made a couple of friends and enjoyed that. And then seeing what her approach was when it was time to save herself, which was, be a little angry at people and then not do much of else. And Sandra being like, no, I'll do something. And it's like,
Also being weirdly confident that she was safe this week.
Yeah, that was surprising.
She was so confident she was okay. And Sandra was like, you're probably not.
How do you have that conversation with Burton and then in your final confessional being like, wow, I really didn't think I was going home tonight?
And I think ultimately Emma's right. She's not somebody we need to bury or anything like that, but also not somebody we need to celebrate at all. It's like, I think she has her fans out there, and hey, man, different strokes, different boats, all that stuff. But I expected more from her in that I expected something from her. And, now that we've gone through 12 episodes, there was not really anything there. Like, I thought I remembered her being a quirkier character. And I think that all just mostly boiled down to her voice, like the sound of it, because she wasn't that either from what we see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, from what I'm able to gather, at least, about why she rubbed people the wrong way, I don't think it was because she was, weird or odd or any way. I think she just liked to tell people what to do, and they didn't like that.
Yeah. And it might be packaged in with what we were seeing from that trio from the midpoint of the game on, is that her, Rupert, and Sandra thought they were running things, and that wasn't true. And I think Sandra gets away with more things because she's more fun and more interesting, whereas Christa isn't. I don't know. Frankly, when I was watching her struggle with the basic concepts of Survivor this week, and it felt like a struggle to her, I was like, why is she on the show? There doesn't seem to be anything interesting or special about her. We had that conversation with Dara earlier, but we at least came up with, conventionally pretty, to the point where we got a rerun of the Dara takes a shower scene this episode. I'm surprised the producers didn't take the shower curtain away.
We also got a lot of blurring on her this episode.
Well, that's what happens when you throw them out without clothes, is that when they start to dive and swim, buffs don't...
Diving with a buff is just not going to work out.
Well, I'm just saying, they really lingered on those shots, is all.
Well, I mean, also, she was doing better. She was actually in the water, unlike Sandra. And then, she's a mortician, and that's, interesting. But, Krista's like...
And she's got a thick old accent.
Yeah, so anyway, that also the week that was her boot episode gave us nothing else to talk about. So that also be like, why is she on the show?
I mean, hey, she almost won the challenge, though, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Which would have changed things, actually.
Changed the whole game.
Another thing that might have changed this whole thing, as we're judging whether they should have gotten out Burton, is different combinations of people winning the reward. One of Dara and Lil not being there. Whatever team was Sandra was on was not going to win. But, the two people that Sandra could have worked with to maybe turn this around, not having access to them.
Also,
and them being on the reward with John and not Burton, because we saw that Burton wasn't great at convincing people, whereas John was. So...
But also, speaking of the challenge, what is with that, they randomly divide, post-merge rewards all the time, but what is with the, also randomly deciding who does what leg? They're not even allowed to strategize? What the hell is the point of that?
I kind of liked it, actually, and especially because it resulted in somebody who always tries to either opt out of the challenge or opt into the least involved portion of it. Suddenly, it's on you. You got to do it. I kind of like that random element. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they do it again.
Okay.
I just feel like the players should be allowed to strategize and make.
I feel like if you suck at things, it's not so bad that every once in a while it's highlighted how much you suck.
It's also reward. So.
Well, I mean, it couldn't be for immunity. This team wins immunity. In immunity, everybody has to do everything. It's just that not immunity isn't as important for everybody in the second half of the game.
Well, right, but I'm saying in pre-merge, when you do an immunity, you can divide up where people go, and you wouldn't want those assigned out randomly.
No.
All right. This has been some just magnificent podcasting, I have to say. This is the one we submit for awards.
At least our other short one was chaotic.
This is just, yeah, we answered this. Yeah, let's keep going.
Yeah. I know, nothing real smooth. So it's the Updog time. Speaking of like really concise and smooth questions, I've tried to do this one for a couple of weeks, and it's because I have an idea of a discussion, and it's very complicated, and we'll see what happens.
So you should answer it first. You should explain what it is.
Yeah,
And you should
Yeah,
answer it.
I'll go first, and then that might help. Basically, what I'm getting at is the short question that will require a longer explanation is, what's your biggest fandom? Why I was thinking this is, obviously for a lot of people, within the Survivor community, the answer is Survivor. They love this more than any of the other things they watch, do for entertainment type things. And I wanted to kind of discuss of all the different ways that you use to entertain yourself. So this isn't like important things. This isn't like family or religion if you're into that or anything, but just of the ways you pass the time. What thing do you love the most? Which is your favorite thing? And for some people, it could be hyper specific, like Survivor. For other people, it could be just a little more general, like they're really into like anime, or they're really into like jazz or something.
Nerds.
And I was just thinking, like, what is because we all like a lot of things. Spoiler alert: I don't think for any of us that answer is going to be Survivor. But we obviously like it. There's a lot of things that we're interested in and passionate about. What thing is the thing you're most interested in? For me, the answer is basketball. Probably more
I
specifically.
was not expecting that, actually.
Well,
That's
there you go.
because
This is
none of
one of
us
the
know
reasons
what
why
his
it's fun to
question
have this
actually
conversation
is.
is people might think all these things, and then somebody's like, no, it's really this thing. Probably more specifically the NBA. I do not watch college basketball or the WNBA, but I also used to really enjoy playing it. I used to, back when people could do this thing, I really enjoyed, coaching my kids, doing it, that sort of thing. But yeah, NBA I find is the thing that I'm most passionate about. It's the thing I probably spend most time reading about. I stay up, on weeknights from 1 to 2 o'clock to watch it. It's frankly probably the only reason why I'm still on Twitter is because of the NBA. So that's my answer. Matt, since you're not muted, I'll let you go next.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I just started thinking about our hypothetical 3-on-3 game.
All right.
Oh, man.
To explain, we, as a thing we often do amongst all of the staffers of the Purple Rock podcast, is we frankly rank people based on whatever random criteria. This is our list for today. Who's the best cooks or whatever, and we just base it based on our limited understanding of each other. And one time it came up basketball skill, and very insultingly, in fact, Matt did not put me near the top, I don't think. And I'm like, dude, actually it was both baseball and that. It's I've been playing it all this time. I coach all this,
I think it was baseball. I actually ranked you very low. I think basketball. I actually had you.
You might,
but
that
not
might have
high
been
enough.
It was the same day we had that conversation, and then as we're doing these rankings, it came into the thing we now have to do if the six of us ever get together is we of course have to have a 3-on-3 game, and it would just be the most pathetic.
So bad.
It would be so pathetic.
If Andy doesn't dominate that game, he has to give up his basketball fandom. It's just that simple.
I mean, at least Brad's tall.
Yeah.
That's true. That's true.
And we gave we don't know if he's ever played outside of gym class, but you're tall and you can't teach that.
Can't teach height.
Can't teach height.
Oh man, and of course we'll never get together, so sadly the dream has to end there. So of course the answer, what we have to do is just submit each of our N1 mixtapes so that we can really at least judge the rankings.
I don't even know what that means.
I'm gonna look it up on the internet.
We'll let you know more.
I also just have to briefly say that Matt ranked himself below me for cooking, and I'm pretty sure that's sexist.
To be fair, I immediately regretted that. I hit submit and I was like, nope, shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. I was dead wrong about that.
But no, I'm with you. The only possible explanation is well, as a girl, she has to know something.
Sexist.
Yeah.
Tough stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
All right, Matt, what's your answer?
So again, gonna choose something that you guys might not expect from me. Board games has been actually one of the things that I've been most into the past couple of years, and it's been one of the ways that I actually socialize with people. in normal times. Like I have a
Nerd.
group that I get together with. You're gonna say this
Emma,
about
all
everything.
these answers should be nerdy.
Yes.
All
Instead
these
of the
answers
point of
should be
passion on
nerdy.
something. If your
My
answer to this
biggest
question
fandom is
isn't
calling
kind of
you all
nerdy, you're doing it
nerds.
wrong.
Okay, jock.
Yeah.
Right, like Emma's the jock there. But no, so for the past couple of years, like board games have actually been like one of the things that I've like kind of like, like a bunch of friends of mine, we have like board game nights, days, whatever, we get together, we hang out. It's just like an activity that we kind of build a social event around, which has been really tough during the pandemic because I'm not allowed to get together in person with these people. We have found some workarounds. There are ways that you can play some board games online if you have access to certain programs, though one of my friends does not, so he's been completely left out, which sucks for him. And then, since I started dating someone, I've been trying to introduce her to these things, hoping that she would like them, which has been going pretty well. So, yeah, that's
Tell
my...
us more about this.
Next week's Updog.
My biggest fandom is gossip.
Oh, wait,
do you
you
play
call
like
me sexist?
Do you play a lot of different games, or is it kind of like
Yes.
a core group of like 5 or 6, or like you're always looking for something new? Or
So, I mean, it kind of varies. Like everyone that I play with kind of has like different interests. Like some people like a core group of like 5 or 6, whereas I really just like trying new games, which is much less cost effective, much less, because I really enjoy like figuring out a game, how it works, and then playing it a few times. I'll play it more, don't get me wrong, but like I'm kind of always seeking the thrill of like the new, which of course led me to buy 2 more games recently, because I've just introduced the person I'm dating to like a good set of 4 or 5. She likes them, and then I'm like, okay, we're gonna add some more in. Which
kind of spice up the relationship already.
I
Back when you could do this sort of thing, did you used to go to like board game cafes or anything like that?
Yeah, actually, where I just bought them from, there's one near me, which I wanted to support. So that's where I just bought the 2 games I got from. So there's one that's like actually pretty close to me, and then there's one that's a little further away. And I kind of got back into it when I visited a friend of mine in Seattle, and he took me to a board game cafe out there, because he also likes this stuff. So that's like kind of what got me back into the hobby.
All right, Emma, what's your ultra cool, hip answer to this question?
I don't understand the question and I won't respond to it.
We worked through this question for 10 minutes last week.
I know,
I'm
but
the one who doesn't
close.
read ahead. You're the one.
Actually, first of all, I want to say that this question and what's your biggest fandom are different questions.
Sure,
answer
I
this
was just
then.
trying to write it short.
Fandom, I would say, I have a whole thing. Because, fandom, I would say that probably is Survivor, in that I'm involved in the fandom and I, have a separate Twitter account and do this podcast and do that. I don't do that shit for anything else I'm into. I'd say, if you're asking a hobby, which is a different question,
It is.
bullying Matt.
Bullying Matt is your hobby?
Bullying Matt, yeah.
You're not very good at it, though. Like,
Yet.
I feel like you could do better. Yet. Okay, that's fair. Okay, well, no, I do feel like there's room for improvement.
Yeah, it takes practice. No, I mean, it's TV too vague.
Yes.
You have a whole sport.
Are you? Yes.
He has
I
every
didn't say
board game.
sports, though, did I?
He has every board game.
What about baseball? What about baseball? You love baseball.
I do love baseball, but I love TV more.
That's a medium. Like, are you deeply passionate about TV?
Yes.
And how? Watching
Like
it?
mother, lover, secret lover. Damn, I forgot the Simpsons
Yes,
quote as I
that's
was saying. I
literally
can't believe I
my
fucked it
Twitter
up. Damn it! Ignore me. No.
My actual Twitter bio is literally television teacher, mother, secret lover. And my friend asked me, was like, what's your Twitter bio? I don't get the joke. And I said Simpsons. And she's like, oh, because she doesn't know the Simpsons because she was raised Mormon. Yes, I love to talk about television. I love to read about television. I love to listen to podcasts about television. And I love to watch it. It's all I care about. I was literally a screenwriting major.
Movies?
I took
Fuck 'em.
classes on television. What?
Miniseries? Maybe. TV?
That's
Hell yeah.
television.
movies are just short TV. They count.
Yes. Movies are fine. I prefer television.
Movies are failed pilots. They didn't get any sequels. They didn't get any continuation. They weren't
I'm the
picked up to
only one who
series.
knows what you're referencing.
I don't care. I'm still enjoying it.
But if we really, want to be super duper specific, we can't, because I don't rewatch things the insane amount that nerds who watch The Office 12 times a year are. I've seen
What
Veronica
about,
Mars
a type of
6
TV? Like, what
times.
types of shows do you like the most?
I like every show.
Oh
She's
my
big
god!
into
No, that's not
CSI,
true. I've
Law
heard
and
you talk about
Order,
shows you don't like.
The Kardashians.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
used to
TV.
watch the Kardashians back in the day, early on. I did. No, I love comedy. I love, I like dramas. I'm not crazy about procedurals, but there have been some I've enjoyed. I like some competition reality. I like some non-structured reality. I don't like dating shows. They give me the creeps.
So no Bachelor, no Bachelorette,
No, they make me
no
very
Bachelor in
uncomfortable.
Paradise.
I think
So
Matt is
uncomfortable.
actually canonically the biggest Bachelor fan in this conversation.
Because I've
This
seen
is true.
one episode.
I have seen 2, but they were out of social obligation, and I did not enjoy it.
Okay, and I actually did enjoy the one I saw.
Yeah,
Which,
so.
to be fair, I heard was basically the most ridiculous episode of the show that ever aired. So
Yeah. But,
I had to quit
but
one
yeah,
night.
I do also love baseball.
Yeah,
So,
no, that was
but I don't, not the way
football
Andy
or
loves
anything like-
basketball.
The assignment was pick one thing that blah 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 blah. Maybe.
I know you're mad, but I stand by it. I spend a lot of it's a facet of my personality. You ask any of my friends, they come
they're
to me
like,
for their
Emma
recommendations.
loves TV.
She's
Okay.
been to the
So-
TV, Hall of Fame type place they have in Los Angeles.
Paley Center twice.
Yes, that's what it's called.
Fair.
Twice.
She's been there. There you go.
I've gone
Fair
to Paley Fest thingy panels.
Well, in the comments, tell us what your fandom, your thing that you like is, and try to be more specific than Emma, or at least justify your answer by as vociferously as she does when you
I
pick an
stand
entire
by it.
medium.
I mean, look, I suppose some
you're
people would
telling
be
me
like, I'm a
film
hardcore
Twitter, would it
cinephile.
be like someone who's like a cinephile can't say movies?
Well, there's less movies.
Fewer,
Is there?
first of all, and also I don't know that that's true. Movies have
In
been
terms
around
of
longer.
hours. In terms of hours, I'd say.
All right, where could they leave comments about
I read
this or
books
many
about
of the other
television.
subjects we've talked about?
Emma, you could keep talking about TV, or you could tell people where to find us.
I'd rather talk about TV. It's my favorite thing to do. But you can find us at www.purplerockpodcast.com. You can follow us on Twitter at PurpleRockPod. You can learn about TV by following me at PurpleRockEmma. If you feel like hearing about basketball, I guess you can follow at PurpleRockAndy.
And if you want to follow me, follow Purple Rock John.
Actually, if you want to follow talk basketball, I have a different account.
He does, but I wasn't going to dox you. So.
I've done that a few times.
I know. Unlike you, who's the one who always calls me Emily. Stephen Fishback showed more care than you did.
I'm sorry. It's a tough alias to crack, though. All right. That's enough for the non-spoiler section. Let's move on to spoilers. Spoilers. Pause, leave now if you
It's
want to remain
spoiler
unspoiled.
time. I really would love to know if there's anyone who actually is watching
Yeah,
this spoiler
this is
free.
the only season we'll ever do this for.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a worthy use of our time. Okay.
Okay.
It seems like most of the things we always talk about is just reassessing elements of Sandra's game, which makes sense. It's the biggest spoiler of the person who wins the game in the discussion. But when I've many times talked about how Anyone But Me is very poorly inaccurate to how Sandra plays, and in fact, she's actually a very loyal player. A lot of people will be like, well, she wasn't loyal to Christa, and lo and behold, she fucking was. She let her hang for her own mistake with the fish, but then she worked to save her and tried to save her again and did not vote for her at all. And in fact, this is what Sandra does. She saved Courtney for a vote. In Heroes vs. Villains, she was trying to save Varner in Game Changer. She is very loyal person, and I don't know. I just want to discuss how maybe there's not much left to discuss, but like, how does her anyone but me relate to the way that she was playing with Christa in this episode in this season?
Well, I think, for one, is that they didn't, completely push on Dara that it had to be Burton, like Dara said, erroneously, but said Lil. And so they're like, okay, Lil. Suddenly, Lil is now my biggest threat.
Yeah, what was up with that?
I don't know. That's just, maybe sometimes you don't.
I
read
did
the
hear
jury
on
right.
something recently, that Sandra said, and this is extra spoilery, but as said that both times she won, she did not think she won. That she thought Parvati won, which is fair, and she thought that Lil won, which is
and here's the thing: she's not the only one to say it. And at first, it seemed like she's saying it at tribal council, and thus, a lie. If she wants people to vote for Lil, it's what you would say. But she also says it while casting her vote, which is less of a time for a lie. But I feel like Fairplay might have said something to that effect, or Dara, like other people did say it as well.
He said it while talking to Dara, so that it could, similarly to the tribal council thing, could be a lie, but was like, no one can beat Lil in the final two.
Yeah, and it's a little weird, because, and maybe it was true at that time and in that moment of the game, that
things changed. At one point, Ty was unbeatable.
At the time, it might have seemed it might have been true. Lil was the odds-on favorite, the most liked person, and what happens is she made the cardinal sin that she was a woman who decided other people would go home. She was never allowed to actually do that, and then once she gets to a final jury situation, she's buried for the hypocrisy of daring to pretend to be a good person, yet not allowing people.
Wore a scout uniform.
Yeah.
Is that actually why she's buried at the end, though? Or is she buried just because people actually like Sandra more?
We'll get to it. I don't know. I'm just saying, it's shocking for all of us when we're hearing that Lil is this feared jury person. Because we know that she's going to lose and lose easily. But also, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like she's the person who already got voted out, that isn't very likable, that we talk about every week whether she sucks or not. But apparently that's not necessarily the, universal opinion. Maybe it's everybody, maybe more people did think that they could work with Lil, and then it turns out that not everybody can.
No. So I think the fear of Lil is like a common fear on these seasons. There's someone who has like a story or some reason you think that they might win when you're like not quite at the end, but like a little far away. And when you get there, those people, like, the story isn't enough. People have to still like you. They still have to like respect your game. And Lil has like a story in that, well, she came back in and she was able to get to the end, and she's a scout person and all that. And you can kind of like abstract it into a story that you maybe think that Lil is a threat. Yeah. But
it could be like Dawn is like this nice mom of all these adopted kids and such a sweet lady. And then when they get to the end, the jury's like, no, you must suffer.
Right.
You voted out Brenda.
Right, but but like the reality of Lil is just not the same as the abstraction of her. And I think you get kind of caught up in the abstraction a bit rather than think about the reality.
Yeah. And I suppose it should be noted that as dangerous as they talk about her, nobody tries to vote her out.
Nope.
Do we think that Fairplay would have beat her? Probably a better question for the last episode. But at this point, it is kind of like, is he playing the best? That's the one I keep thinking about, is he might have come close to winning this season.
I think it would have been really close. I think it would have been really close. I think we should try to break that down in the last episode because I have not thought ahead of it, and I would actually like to try to think ahead of the votes there. But
yeah, we don't have the answer, but it's just like a pin now. If people are talking about Lil being dangerous, is it only that Sandra became more dangerous, or is it that she wasn't by the end and Fairplay had a real shot, especially in light of the fact that he's I think he would have been able to make a good argument that he was doing a lot of things strategically. Whether the jury cares about that more than they care about how slimy he frankly is. Frankly, like where it's like, how did he piss off Lil? Like you guys,
his grandmother.
Yeah, they don't know that, but they barely had to meet John to realize he was a slimy guy. You guys texted early before I'd watched. It's like, why did Lil get mad at John? And it's like, is it really hard to imagine that he said something that they couldn't put on the air? To your point, it seemed like it took Dara off guard as well. But it's like, it's never hard to believe that like he just said something that's like, oh, I hate that guy. I don't know.
Nope, that's a good point. So,
all right. Anything else?
That's fair.
I got nothing. We only got 2 more weeks of this, and the next 2 episodes I think have some stuff to talk about. So
yeah, I'm excited for next week. That should be
I'm excited for next week as well. There's one I've been looking forward to.
Yeah,
So.
and then obviously finales, big time, good stuff. This is another one to get through, and I think if we do another rewatch, we're going to, if not do multiple episodes every week, we're definitely going to look ahead for episodes like this one and the one like where Ryan went off. It's like, let's not do those by themselves because it's a little tough. Like a regular Survivor, obviously there can be tough weeks you don't know, but at least you can do predictive analysis. Like, what will this mean? We ain't got that either. We know what's going to happen. So then it's just about discussing the things that happened. And in this episode, what's weird is that I kind of started the episode with this. It should have felt a little bit more surprising, like for a first timer. You say, of course, it was because he was so biased. But the people that voted together, like at the end of the episode last week, don't this week.
Yeah.
But the show didn't construct that mystery at all, and maybe there was just no pieces to work with when they have the conversation with Burton. He's like, it's the first I'm hearing of it. But
like
it's
at least Rhino seems like it's the start of a pagonging, like
wait, did we actually talk about the fact that that Burton, that was the first he heard of that, and how absurd that was?
We briefly touched upon it. We didn't really get into it other than to say, yeah, that's fucking weird, man.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's really weird.
Either he's a terrible liar or like just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just
no, I mean, I
so
believed
strange.
him when he was saying it, so he'd be a really good liar. Just be a terrible lie.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's just like, why would you lie about that? Just lie a different way. But to be like, oh, I don't know. Like, yeah, the lie would be, yes, that's what we're doing. That's the lie.
It's very strange. Like, and that's, so it's like, as much as we can say, that's why we said that, everyone's kind of playing badly, because as much as we might say Johnny Fairplay is playing the best, like, he didn't tell Burton what promise he made. Like, that's weird.
That's absurd. That is so weird. So weird.
See, from that, I can almost see from Fairplay's perspective is that he wants to be the controller of all the information. Everything is his plan, not an us plan. I'm not saying that's necessarily a good thing. I think, yes, you probably should share this so that they can confirm your lie. But I can see why maybe he wouldn't do it, in that he's lying to everybody all the time. And so he doesn't need, almost like you don't want to fill in people because then you have to keep up with who knows what lie. I don't know. Yeah, it was just weird. But yeah, it's tough for weeks when there isn't much to go. And just this week, it was like, they didn't hide it. They kept telling us every step of the way. And it's like, yeah, it's not going to work out for you guys. Like they'd have a conversation with Burton and Christa, and then like almost right after, like show us why that's not going to happen. Like they'd have Fairplay being like, no, but we're going to get rid of her. So like, she's next, right? And Burton's like, oh yeah? Oh, okay. Yeah. So next week will not be like that. So hopefully we'll have a better podcast and hopefully, a better Updog question. I'm going to leave that to you guys. Anything else?
Nah, hit that theme music.